Hi everybody, this is God's Girl G. Thank you so much for joining me today. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. And for those returning to this channel to watch this video and you're not already subscribed, I'm going to encourage you to do so by clicking the subscribe icon below. And if during the course of this video you hear something that you like, click the thumbs up, comment below, or better yet, share this video with someone that you feel could benefit from the information. With that stated, let's get into today's discussion. Today, more than ever, it seems that the idea of being against authority is mainstream. In fact, some people would argue that if you do not question authority, then you are a part of the corrupt system seeking to oppress people. Now, let me be clear, that was not a political statement. The formal definition of rebellion is opposition to authority. Now, rebellion can become violent, but it can also remain repressed and dormant for long periods of time. But what we all know for sure is that rebellion always begins in the heart. For example, Absalom, the third son of King David, provides a great foundation on our lesson in rebellion. Absalom's story is one of pride and greed. It's a story about a man who tried to overthrow the plan of God. Instead, his life ended in a very violent downfall. But if you're not familiar with his story, let's see what lessons his story provides. Absalom's story begins in 2 Samuel, the 13th chapter, not with his own misdeeds, but with those of his half-brother Amnon, whom he was related to through his father, King David. Same daddy, different mamas. To make a long story short, Amnon sexually assaulted Absalom's sister Tamar. And although King David was very angry at Amnon, he did nothing regarding Amnon's punishment. Now, in those days, sexual assault was a capital offense and should have warranted the death penalty. 2 Samuel 13 says that Absalom spoke to Amnon neither good or bad, for Absalom hated Amnon because he had violated his sister Tamar. Sadly, Tamar lived a desolate woman in her brother Absalom's house. So you can imagine the impact watching his sister Tamar suffer on a daily basis had on him. After Tamar's rape by Amnon, David did nothing. And because of that, Absalom started his plot of revenge. 2 years later, after all of that went down with Tamar, Amnon found himself murdered by Absalom. Absalom fled, but David did not pursue him. But eventually Absalom did return. But even upon Absalom's return, for 2 years David did not see nor talk to Absalom. And like a child demanding attention, Absalom burned the field of the commander of David's army. And while Absalom was finally granted an audience with his father, King David, no significant conversation occurred to address past wrongs and current conflicts. So not long after that, it's recorded that Absalom set out to steal the hearts of the men of King David's army. Ultimately, Absalom led a coup for the kingdom and forced his father out of the throne for even a temporary period of time. Now, of course, that period of time meant King David's men was going to come after him. The manner in which Absalom died was very interesting, if not bizarre. What trapped Absalom was his head full of hair. It was his crowning glory. It was his source of pride. His pride is now proven to be his downfall. While it was Absalom's wounded heart that led to his rebellion, it was pride that led to his death. Absalom died as David sought to defend his throne. Now, we don't know everything that went on in Absalom's head, but we do know enough to infer that there's an interesting relationship going on between offense and rebellion. There's a correlation there. A massive offense drove Absalom down a self and other destructive moral spiral that ultimately ruined his life and stained the legacy of his family. So here are some lessons that we can learn from Absalom's story. Lesson 1 is one that I have to state. And this lesson is for parents and for those in authority. Be aware at how words and actions, or lack thereof, can impact our children or those who we are guardians over. Although King David had the power and the authority to punish his son Amnon for his sexual assault against his daughter Tamar, David evaded his responsibilities and remained silent when confronted with Amnon's act. Nowhere in the biblical text does it refer to David's concern for his daughter or his feelings toward the actions of his son Amnon. By not punishing Amnon for the rape of Tamar, David did not overtly condemn the rape. His refusal to bring justice to his daughter was an affront to Absalom. David did not act to defend his daughter because his primary concern was to protect his son and potential heir to his throne. Tamar's dignity was taken away in order to protect the perpetrator. This is a great reminder to be sensitive to a child's feelings, sensitive to how words and actions can impact them. We need to make time for them, affirm, encourage, and pray for them, that they would grow in the knowledge and fear of the Lord. Lesson 2 that Absalom's story teaches us: do not take revenge. When you are wronged, it does not give you the right to take actions into your own hands or seek revenge. The Lord commands us in Romans chapter 12, verse 19, "Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord." Leave it to God to exercise divine retribution. The third lesson that Absalom's story teaches us: we must deal with our pride. Absalom's pride told him, "I can rule the country better than my father." But Philippians chapter 2 verse 3 instructs us, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves." We should respect others, even if we don't agree with them. The fourth lesson that Absalom's story teaches us is that we must deal with rebellion. Rebellion is different than disobedience. When we disobey, we simply just don't carry out what was instructed for us to do. When we rebel, we purposely do the opposite of what we were told. So there's a difference. We must obey the authority of God. When we rebelled, it's not just a rebellion against authority, it's a rebellion against God. Though it may seem that Absalom had a right to be angry, that anger caused him to be rebellious and prideful, and eventually cost him his life. His actions as a result of that anger was due to pride and bitterness toward his father, King David. As a result, Absalom lost everything, including his life. There are so many lessons that we can glean from his story, but the bottom line is this: his story teaches us, don't be an Absalom. Just don't. It's important to remember that we can take our hurts to God and allow God's grace to help us and heal us. We are commanded to guard against bitterness and to forgive. We learn from Absalom's story just how much we need a Savior. Philippians 6:11 says we are to put on the whole armor of God, that we can withstand the schemes of the enemy. Putting on that whole armor of God means spending time with God in prayer and in His Word daily, and choosing to live by His truth, following Christ, in order to protect ourselves against the evil that lurks among us. The enemy seeks to steal, kill, and destroy us. But I'm so glad that Jesus gave His life so that we can have life in the fullness. Thank you so much for joining me today. And don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye.